Welcome to Health Quest. My name is Dr. Robert Stashko, and I have the privilege of having some guests for today's show. We're going to discuss a very interesting topic today. We always try to bring cutting-edge ideas of vitamins and minerals and different types of nutrients to our show. But today we're going to talk about a food. Now, I always try to bring in, on previous shows we've had asparagus and garlic and such things, but today we're going to talk about salt. That's right, salt. Most people think, oh my goodness, salt is bad for you. You know, it's all kind of health conditions that can be affected by salt. But what we're going to talk about today is the differences between refined salt and unrefined salt. And people will say, unrefined, what's the difference? The difference, first of all, is refined salt is bleached and its color is white. It is all the salt we use in our salt shakers at home. It's the salt that's in preserved foods and processed foods. And I mean, you just read the labels, everything today has salt in it. But unfortunately, sodium chloride, which is what this white table salt is the salt that has no minerals except sodium and chloride. Now, this particular salt, I agree with, is detrimental for a lot of health conditions, you know, from possibly increasing hypertensive reactions, problems with kidney stones, problems with kidney function. We have to be careful. And there are some people who have sensitivities to this kind of salt. So it's rightfully so that the medical community will say to people, be careful of salt, because this is what this salt can do. Unfortunately, this salt is different than unrefined. So unrefined salt is basically sea salt. But again, all sea salt is not created equal, and we'll get into some of the differences as the show goes on. But I want to mention some interesting history behind salt a little bit. In Roman times, and in biblical times, they used to use salt to pay people. It used to be used as a wage, like money. I thought that kind of interesting when I first read about salt. And the word salary comes from the word salt. And that's how salary got its name, because salt was a wage that they paid these people. In the Civil War, one of the reasons why the North defeated the South is because the North actually limited or cut off the amount of salt that was going to the Southern troops, to the Confederates, and they couldn't preserve their foods. And because salt is used as a preservative. And even today in certain cultures, salt is still used as a wage to actually pay people for their jobs that they do. So it's that important of a substance itself. But the unrefined salt that we're going to talk about today is so important because sea salt contains all of the trace minerals. And I talk about vitamins a lot, I talk about herbs and different homeopathics, but minerals are so important because minerals are what activate vitamins to work. Without having minerals in your body, the vitamins don't activate, they don't become bioavailable. So if our mineral pool is low, we're in trouble. One of the ways we can see this is in hot weather. If we're out working in the yard or doing different things and we're sweating a lot and not hydrating, drinking enough water, because salt and water go together, we're going to dehydrate, and we're going to sometimes get, you know, things like sunstroke and feel like we're going to pass out because we lose salt from our body. So again, if this salt is so bad that we hear about, why are so many good things associated with salt? Well, unrefined salt is what we got to start using more of. I tell my patients all the time, take your salt shakers that have the white salt, the refined salt, throw it out, and buy Celtic Sea Salt. Celtic Sea Salt is the purest form of sea salt that you can use. Now there's Himalayan, which is good. There's real salt. There's a lot of different sea salts on the market, but what I like about Celtic is the way it's produced. It's done naturally. It's dried in the sun. It's done in Europe and France. It's made from the ocean. It's the pure form of unrefined salt which our body needs, which contains all the trace minerals. So when you're using this kind of salt, you're actually remineralizing your body too. Why is this important? Because the pH, which is your body's acid alkalinity, is so important depending on minerals. If our mineral pool becomes deficient, we become acidic. If we become acidic, we can develop different conditions. The famous saying is, we're born alkaline, we die acid. And most conditions that develop pathology are an acidic type reaction. So we don't want to become acidic. So taking unrefined salt on a regular basis assures us of increasing our mineral pool. I'm sure you guys all heard about the low salt diets, and if people have hypertension or they have different types of health problems, they should, again, watch the salt. They're correct. Unrefined salt, as long as you're not sensitive to salt and having like an allergy reaction, is fine. There's never been any problems with unrefined salt raising blood pressure. As a matter of fact, some of the studies are showing that unrefined salt will lower blood pressure. Salt is very important for adrenals. Our adrenal glands sit on top of our kidneys, and the adrenals, most people's adrenals today are not working very well. So if we give minerals to the body in the form of salt, then the adrenals will function better. We also need salt to help our thyroid. There's so many thyroid conditions today. And again, the reason why salt is important for thyroid health is it contains trace amounts of iodine. And we could do a whole show on iodine, which is an extremely important mineral for the body for thyroid conditions. So that's a little bit about salt. And if anybody has any questions now on what salt can do or how you feel about salt, let's discuss that.
The reason I laughed is I can't have anything with iodine in it.
Okay, so you have a problem with the iodine reaction?
I eat sea salt when I eat it.
Okay, now how long have you done sea salt? How many years? Been a while?
No, it's been 8 years at least now.
Do you season your food with it too? I mean, all the time? Do you? Because a good thing to do in like hot times of the year, like summertime, is if you're going to work in the yard or play golf or have activities outside, we should basically put a pinch of salt in some water. Because what I found interesting too is the human blood is like seawater. It's salty. Okay, so again, why is that important? Because we need salt for proper vascularity, for proper circulation. I find also when people say, oh, stay away from salt, the first thing they do in a hospital if someone is having sunstroke or dehydrated, they start a Ringer solution of saline. And the reason being is they want to get that salt level up. So it is important that we understand the proper salt. That's the key.
But sea salt wouldn't help. Well, it doesn't hurt me. That's why I use the sea salt.
Well, yeah, because you're getting all the other minerals along with it and not just and by the way, the reason why refined salt is white, anybody know why?
No.
It's bleached.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. They bleach the salt, and in the bleaching process, they use aluminum. Okay, and we all know that aluminum is a heavy metal, which can be linked to all kind of health conditions too. But the reason they do it is because when they bleach the salt, it removes all the minerals, trace minerals, and it allows that salt to stay on the longer shelves. So it's part of keeping it on the shelves longer too, preserving it.
Dr. Stashko, is there any sea salt in the sports drinks?
That's a good question. I don't believe, I believe most of those sport drinks are just the regular table salt. I'm not sure on that one. That's a good question. I have to check it out and find out. I wish they would if it's true, because the sea salt, again, has the minerals in there. The problem with a lot of the Gatorades, I always recommend people drink Gatorades and such. The problem with a lot of those sport drinks, though, is the high sugar content. So you're getting something good, but you're also getting something bad, you know, so you got to be careful with that. That's a good point.
Well, what about the table salt, like you say, the regular bleach salt? It'll say iodized, or it'll say plain.
Right.
So what do they add iodine to it? And
Yes.
and does that help for your thyroid? Does that?
That's why they started adding it again.
Yeah.
Because years ago, most of the salt, even some of the bleach salt, had iodine added to it. And then what happened is they took the iodine out and they actually put in another mineral which is bad, which is called bromide. And bromide will compete for receptor sites in the thyroid, because the thyroid runs off of a mineral, other things besides iodine, but iodine is a primary mineral for the thyroid. But if bromide is found in certain foods, it'll displace the iodine receptor sites and bromide will go there. And now they're finding out that they're taking the bromide out of, and they're adding more iodine because what's happening is messing up the thyroid. Again, you can't use things for the body that aren't specific, because the body will respond negatively in some cases.
So Dr. Stashko, you're saying maybe we should limit our trips to the fast food restaurants?
Terry, you hit the nail on the head with saying that one. I mean, we really need, and let's be honest, we're all human. We're all going to fail once in a while and eat some bad foods, but that is an excellent point, because if you would know the amount of refined salt in fast foods, in processed foods, I mean, just read the labels. I mean, what you're doing right there is you're setting yourself up for a whole bunch of health issues. So be careful of that.
You and I both know that ain't going to happen.
Yeah. Well, you know, people have to be, today, their health is their responsibility. And that's the beauty of these shows, because when we get people like you on, we can throw things back and forth and then help people who are watching this and hopefully, you know, spawn more ideas on what the truth is. There's a lot of misinformation and a lot of concepts out there about things. And I hope that my show helps with, you know, getting that stuff out that people can understand there's more to it than what we see.
I have actually read articles that tell you you are the product of your choices in life,
Right.
in every aspect.
That's very
I
true.
agree.
But like I always say, you know, we have to take health as our own responsibility. And I think, you know, you can go to any kind of a doctor, but ultimately you make the decisions on what you want to do.
So you're saying that Celtic salt will not raise your blood pressure.
That's correct. That's correct, because what you have in Celtic salt is all the minerals. You don't just have sodium chloride.
So it all balances out then.
That's correct, because sodium chloride is what the problem is, because it's just salt itself. There's nothing else along with it. And also, there are a few people that could be sensitive to even sea salt. So it's, again, you've got to be careful, because if someone has a sensitivity to sea salt, and it's rare, then you got to watch kidney function, because the salt precipitates to the kidney, and then you start developing all kind of kidney trouble. And so there are those exceptions to the rule.
Salt does have water retention in your body.
That's correct. Now, what's interesting is if you have a proper balance between good salt, unrefined, and hydration, because we're all dehydrated today. We all need to drink more water. That's extremely important. You can do a little trick and show how important salt is. Let's say you sprain your ankle, okay? So the best thing you can all try, if you ever sprain your ankle, is just take a basin of water and salt, Epsom salt. Use Epsom salt. Put your foot in there, and what's the Epsom salt going to do to the swelling around the foot? It's going to, exactly, it's going to draw the fluids from the injured site back into the general circulation, and you're going to get a diuretic effect with actually helping to get rid of the swelling in there. So again, it's Epsom salts. It's a salt that would work for, the water and salt work together in that respect, you see. But, yeah.
You mentioned the thyroid. That's one of my problems, my thyroid. I don't know when I'm thirsty.
And that's a sign that you really are dehydrated.
Inside my mouth is sticking together. I'll dry up and blow away before I...
Right. How much water do you drink?
Not a lot.
Do you crave water at all? Do you?
No, I never drank a lot even when I was a kid. And I
Do you
didn't
sweat a
realize
lot
that-
when you go out in warm weather? Do you have a lot of perspiration? No?
Not since 8 years ago, no.
Okay.
I used to perspire a lot.
Because-
Well, after 8 years ago, no.
What you might want to do is use the sea salt, but you might even want to look at other trace minerals you might be low on. Because usually when you're taking sea salt, you're getting a general balance of all the trace minerals, but you might be still deficient in more specific ones that you can take extra.
Well, it swings back and forth. That's the weird part about it.
How's your energy? You get tired easy?
No,
Good energy?
no.
Okay.
I didn't realize how bad it was until I was out in the yard for doing some work, and my neighbor asked me how I was doing. And I says, pretty good. He says, you know, he says, it's hot out here. I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, I said, how hot is it? He says, it's 94. He says, how long you been out here? I says, I didn't have a watch. Yeah, what time is it? I was out for 6 hours without
Wow.
drinking.
Wow. And you see, you were probably severely dehydrated. You're lucky you just didn't go right out.
I was getting ready to. Thank you
Yeah.
for mentioning it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But it's weird.
Yeah. Well, once again, time seems to go so fast here, doesn't it? We have these discussions. And again, I want to thank all of you for coming today. And I hope that this discussion on salt was helpful, and we can go from there. And like I always say, remember, we were talking about earlier, you write your prescription for your own health.